All right, welcome everybody. Oh wow, we already it's adding up fast here. 45, 50. Here we go. Here we go.
Exciting to see people really looking forward to learning from you, Katie, on the coaching topic.
Oh shoot, this is bigger than I thought it was gonna be. Now I'm getting nervous. Now I actually have to talk about good stuff. This is gonna be tough now. Who do we got here? I see T Short on here. Where are you? Yeah, there he is. Tommy Short. There he is. Other KD in the house. I think I saw a door on here as well. Good to see some familiar faces. Would love to know like kind of where you're calling in from and if there's anything specific you wanted to hear today. I'm excited to do this. We haven't done one like this before. We've talked about call coaching. We haven't talked about how. So this will be fun to dive in here a little bit.
Yeah, and it will also
Carrie
be
in the
fun
house
to...
from Wisco. Carrie, have we talked about spotted cow yet? Have I asked you to send me spotted cow? Because if I haven't yet, I'm asking you to send me spotted cow from Wisco.
It would also be great to hear everyone's feelings about call coaching.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're at 72. So, all right, y'all. Well, I'm going to pass the mic over to Shruti here in a second to do intros, but just excited to have everybody here. This is a topic that gets talked about often, but I don't think it's talked about in depth enough. And so Shruti just mentioned it. I would love to, as everyone's kind of introing and everything else, like, kind of the thoughts on call coaching, right? I guess what that makes you think of when you hear it. Like, is it a positive thing or a negative thing? Because it can go both directions. And I'm always curious how people think about it. So we'll start seeing words come in here. Shruti, you can kick us off here and we will do this.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. And this definitely is much bigger than either of us expected, right, Katie?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'll kick it off with an intro of myself. And then, I think a lot of you know Katie, but it'll be great to hear what he thinks about call coaching and what his relationship has been with it. So I'm Shruti. I'm the CEO and founder of Wingman. Wingman is a call coaching platform that provides analytics and real-time feedback on sales calls. Before starting Wingman, I've done a variety of things, but call coaching, definitely not as much as I would have liked. I think a lot of you know Katie already, and that's partially the reason why you're here. Apart from the very interesting topic that we are going to discuss today, Katie has been in sales leadership roles across different companies. He currently leads a large sales team at Patient Pop, and is also really passionate about sales and coaching overall, and runs the Inside Sales Excellence, community. Katie, over to you.
Awesome. Well, I'm pumped to do this, y'all. I think it'll be fun. If you haven't, seen me present before, I move pretty quickly. I'm gonna try to keep the cuss words at a minimum, but this is not kindergarten. This is not one of those save your questions for the end. If you have a question, throw it in the chat. Anisha's on your helping monitor. Kushal, Shruti, I like to answer things in real time. So if you have a question, throw it in there. A comment, throw it in there, right? Like all of those things are important because this is for you all, right? And so as I'm going, if something stands out, if something doesn't sound right, feel right, share it, because this is when we get to learn and learn from each other. So I'm going to share my screen here and we will rock as long as Shruti can give me a thumbs up that she can see it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we are good to go.
We good? All right, y'all. Well, we are here to talk about call coaching. All right. How to create a coaching culture to beat your number. So quick agenda. Y'all know my style. I'm not big on agendas because I just want to get into it right away. And William, we'll talk about emailing prospects probably in a different webinar, but we do have some resources for that in the Inside Sales Excellence. But we're talking about what is coaching, why coaching, a coaching framework. I'm a big believer in frameworks and recipes, something that you can follow, but then also make your own. If we have time, we'll get into time management, coaching the coach, metric-based coaching, how to create a culture of coaching as well. But also, too, I've got a call pulled up. So we might even do a live breakdown here on this webinar so you can see it done in real time, right? So let's talk about coaching. And actually, I'm going to ask people to put this into the chat. What is coaching? Y'all just showed up to a webinar about call coaching. What does it mean to coach somebody, right? What does it mean to coach somebody? Throw it in the chat here real quick. What does it mean to coach? Because none of this matters if we are all talking about different things. I think this gets very confused by a lot of people. They confuse managing, training, and coaching. And those are three very, very different things, right? They're happy with building strengths, identifying, helping them get better, helping someone increase better skill set. Coach is someone that tells you what you don't want to hear. There's T-Short. He's telling you, right? Who can be there, means a new perspective, right? There's all these different ideas of what coaching is, but it's hard to have a very tactical definition because there is a huge gap in what managers think is coaching and what reps think is coaching, right? Defining it would help more people coach. So what does it mean to coach somebody, right? So I love this breakdown of the difference between training and coaching, right? Training, transferring knowledge, coaching, enhancing knowledge or skills, training, group setting, coaching, one-on-one, training, offsites, coaching on the job, training, new hires, coaching, more experienced employees, right? Training, structured, coaching, unstructured, which we're going to change a little bit. I want to give you some structure, right? So you can see the differences here. And a lot of times managers are training or telling. They're not actually coaching. And that is where we really need to break down the difference, right, between being a trainer and a coach. All right. And so if we move forward here, like, I hope everyone understands this, but it's funny because everyone says it. Everyone says they want to do more coaching. Everyone says they believe in the value of coaching, but then most people still don't, right? Why you need to do more coaching? These are all studies, by the way. It's not me just making stuff up. Although next time I will add a made up stat just to see if people ever look at this stuff up, right? But results, higher quote attainment from coaching, retainment, people stay longer where they are being coached. Recruiting, this is an amazing recruiting tool. An amazing recruiting tool. Historically, unfortunately, a lot of the companies I've worked for are never the top dollar company, but I can still recruit because people know they're going to get coaching and then they stay for a long time because they're being coached. Strategy. If you are coaching, to my managers, to my VPs, if you are in the trenches coaching still, it keeps you close to the action so you know where to focus your strategies on, right? So CEB did a study here, right? Sales reps who receive 3 hours of coaching a month exceed their goal by 7%, revenue by 25%, and close rate by 70%. And Shruti, I know you had some cool stats on this too when we talked on our podcast episode. What did you all see with some of the stats around call coaching and results?
Call coaching typically doubles the revenue that people are able to attain. And that is just so powerful. But what is really mind-boggling for me is the fact that it happens so less, right? It doesn't happen in 50% of the companies. What is also interesting, about what you mentioned, training versus coaching, I'm curious to hear, there are lots of folks you can bring on board externally for doing trainings. And, people like to do that as part of sales kickoffs. Have you seen people leverage external stuff for coaching? And do you think that works? Or do you think that's something that the manager has to primarily do by themselves?
The manager has to do it by themselves. An outside person like me cannot coach your team. Back to this, I cannot coach your team because coaching is one-to-one, tailored to the individual with consistent follow-up. And here's the key: practice. Okay. Coaching also involves practice, and an outside trainer can't give that to you, but they can give you what you should be practicing. This is why most sales training doesn't stick. You call me and you call in Barrows, Braun, Beck, Keenan, name anybody. We come in, Morgan, come in for 3 days. woo, gone. And no one stays coaching to it. And that's why it doesn't stick, right? So now we're going to get tactical on like when we're doing call coaching. Here are things what you should be looking for when you're doing call coaching. That is pretty much universal. Doesn't matter the business, enterprise, SMB, inbound, outbound. There's certain things that you should always be looking for when you're coaching a call. First, tone. How do they sound? How do they sound? Does their tone match the emotion they are going for, right? This is key. And y'all, some of y'all probably see me present on like scripting in the past, right? And people are like, oh, scripts don't work because they make me sound robotic. That is not true. A script doesn't sound like anything. A script is a piece of paper. You sound robotic. There's a big difference, right? By the way, is what I'm doing right now, is this scripted? Yes. You can see the bullet points. Tone. Tone. How do they sound? Oftentimes when I'm listening to the call, the first thing I do is shut my eyes and listen. I'm just listening to how they sound. Questions. Are they asking good questions that drive the conversation forward? This doesn't matter if it's a cold call or a demo call. Are they asking good questions that drive the conversation forward? And don't worry, towards the end here, I actually have a framework for a call scorecard that I'll show you as well that you can use kind of as a baseline. Are they asking secondary questions? Okay, so they got a response from the prospect. Are they asking a follow-up question, or do they just take it and run with it? And are they applying what is being said? Okay, they ask the questions. Are they applying it? Are they using it? They've researched it. Did they use it? Did they make it relevant? Right? Like there's specific things that you want to look for. And are they using problem-based language? Y'all know I'm a big proponent of this. The more you talk about problems, the more interest and curiosity you can gather. The more times you talk about yourself and your product, immediately shut down. Immediately shut down because they don't care. I don't care. You don't care about the product. You care about the problems that it solves. And are they using that type of language on these calls, right? This is a framework that I've taught in the past too, KPIC. Here's what I know. Here are the problems, the impact, and the call to action. Here's what I know about you and your company or persona. Here are the problems that I know that you or your company or persona are facing. Here's the impact of those problems. Call to action. Here's what I want you to do about it. KPIC, right? So I'm listening for this, right? By the way, the call that we're going to listen to at the end, I haven't listened to yet. I wanted to do this live. I wanted no prep. I wanted no connotation going in. And even this, right? This framework, every single one of you now could go and listen to a call and remember this, KPIC. No problem, impact, call to action. Does it have this on the call? This is demo calls as well, right? Issue diagnosis is big too. What are you looking for? So I'll use an example. What if, let's see if who can get this first. A rep has a longer than expected sales cycle. What should you be listening for? A closer has a longer than expected sales cycle. What should you be looking for on their calls? Let's see who can get this. Y'all didn't know you were going to show up to this and get quizzed. This isn't for me. This is for y'all. Next steps. Can we get more specific? What about the next steps? Qualifying quickly. That could have it. Let's see it. That they understood the pain. They're not tuning the customer issues. Not moving to next steps. So we're getting closer. Urgency and scheduled next steps. Urgency and scheduled next steps. So now here's the beauty, y'all. If I'm working with a rep who has a longer sales cycle, which part of the call do I need to listen to? Which part of the call do I need to listen to? The end, because I know what I'm looking for. When you know what you're looking for, you can go through way more calls than sitting and listening to a full hour, right? And I'm gonna give you some tips and tricks towards the end on how to do it even faster, right? Now, I do want to talk about this though, real quick, because there's also things that get talked about a lot in call coaching that do not matter. And this might ruffle some feathers. This might get people all fired up. If you got some reps on here that you've been doing these things to, and now they find out that they shouldn't, and they look bad at you, don't be mad at me. I'm just the educator. I'm just trying to help you here. First things first, things that don't matter. Filler words. Stop counting these. This is lazy call coaching and it drives me nuts. You have a rep who has a 2 times lower close rate and you're talking to her about how many times she says, you need to say less, and that's what's going to double the close rate. This is lazy. This is such an easy thing to point out that does not actually lead to a massive impact in the metrics you're trying to drive. Now, like if you are like talking like maybe like a Valley Girl like, and every single time like you like this and then you like, does that make a difference? Yes, but that's different and that's not how people talk. Filler words, back off them. It does not have the impact that you think it does. It's lazy call coaching. Pace. You need to slow down. Would y'all like me to slow down? Am I losing you because I'm talking too fast and the impact of what I'm saying is not there? No, pace. Some of my best sales reps talked really fast. Some of my best sales reps spoke very slow. It didn't matter. Pacing, again, that's lazy management. And oftentimes, too, by the way, this is very often male feedback to female reps, and it's ridiculous. You need to slow down. No, they don't. That's not what matters in these conversations. Talk time ratios with an asterisk. And I know this is going to fire some people up, so I have a small asterisk here. Okay, you know when it's too much. The difference between 50-50, 60-40, and 65-35, again, rarely is going to be the difference maker to moving a metric, right? Very, very rarely. And this is what people need to remember. You're trying to change a metric. Okay. So if you sit down with me and I've got a close rate of 15% and you're trying to get me to 30%, and you go, KD, I got the magic sauce for you here. If you can get your talk ratio to 60% instead of 65, you're going to double your close rate. Does anyone believe that? Anyone in the chat here be like, oh, that's the secret sauce. If you can just drop it, that's not what you're looking for here, right? How you would or did it. And to my coaches, this is big. Well, here's how I handled that objection. Here's how I would close that call. Here's how I would do it. Here's how I did it. Do I have sale? I don't know what the makeup today is or how many people are on this call, but we're almost at 90 right now. Sales reps in the chat. Does that ever motivate you and coach you? If your manager goes, here's how I did it. Does that make you go, oh, snap, like now I get it? Is Bill Belichick telling Tom Brady how to throw a spiral? Was Phil Jackson telling Kobe how to shoot the fadeaway? Is Mike K out there dunking on Zion, right? Like, it's not about how you would do it, right? It's how you can get the rep to do it. This does not help you, all right? So I wanted to call this out too, because this is a place where people get lazy and the manager feels like they're doing a good job. This is not the stuff that matters. Oh, shoot, I missed what the question was. I'm seeing a lot of 1s and 2s. Hold on. 1 if you're a coach, 2 if you're a rep. Okay. I was like, what did I miss? People throwing 1s and 2s into the chats here. Okay. So my coaches, please commit to this. This is not where your focus is, right? This is lazy. Stay away from these things and focus on the things that matter, right? Because where coaching goes wrong, first I called this out, teaching and telling, right? This is where most go wrong, is they just tell. Hey, Anish, I need you to ask this question at the end. Is that coaching? Oh, that's telling. That's not coaching. Too much feedback. And y'all, I'm breaking my own rule in this presentation. I'm giving y'all way too much for great coaching. This is more training. Coaches, my goodness gracious. If you are giving them more than 5 pieces of feedback on a call, it's already too much. This is where most coaches go wrong when they're doing it. All right, so T-Short, your intro, way too long. You're way too long-winded. And you said way too much. Now, the objection you got around pricing, I need you to handle it like this. I liked how you did this thing over here, but whoa, you really left them off the hook over here. You even asked for next steps. So next time I want you to do this. And oh, by the way, let's go back to discovery real quick. You forgot the key. And that rep's going to sit there going, oh, gone. Prioritize your feedback, right? Focusing on the wrong things is where a lot of coaching goes wrong. Haphazard or inconsistent. You're not coaching consistently, or your feedback isn't consistent, right? You're looking at the wrong things. You get feedback on one call this way and another call that way. No practice. And this is the difference, I think, in coaching that wasn't on that chart. Coaching includes practice. Coaching includes practice. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute role play. If I got T-Short on there, oh, look, he just put it, feedback. It's like, that's why I love Short, right? I would say, yo, I need you to ask the discovery question this way. Spit it to me real quick. Okay, I like it. Let's bring that tone up real quick. Spit it to me real quick. Okay, you feel how that sounds? All right, let's use a prompt and a reminder for the next one. Now we're coaching, right? For all of my former athletes, or for all of my musicians, or for anyone that did anything, did your coach only coach you in the game? No, they coached you way more in practice. That is the missing sauce for most coaching. All right. So I want to give you the framework here. And Keenan and Steve Richard actually a while back did a presentation that kind of did this a little bit. I'm going to go deeper on it, but it's observe, describe, implication, prescribe, right? And absorption and application. And these are things that I've added towards the end. You have to observe what's happening, describe it. What's the implication of what you saw? Prescribe what to do, make sure they've understood it, and then how can you help them apply it, right? So this is the framework that you want to be using when you're coaching calls. So let's talk about the first one, observe. Observe. You know how ridiculous this is, by the way? How many managers coach without actually listening to calls? Like, think about that real quick. How can you do call coaching if you aren't listening to calls? Right? Like, managers, I'm telling you, this is, to me, this is still one of the biggest. I don't understand it in our industry. We spend millions on marketing, millions on headcount, make promises to the board, and very rarely do we even know what's going on the calls, where it actually happens, right? Where the rubber meets the road. So David here, what happens if you see them doing something, but it's not right? If they're doing the wrong things? Okay, cool. We're gonna get in this a little bit with the framework here, David, and we'll see if this answers the question. So first of all, the observation, observe, listen, but be specific on what you're listening for, right? Be specific on what you're listening for. And this is why a scorecard is so valuable, because you know what you're trying to observe, right? If you don't know what you're looking for, it's really hard to find it, right? And this is also, by the way, what allows you to listen to more calls. If I know I'm only trying to work on a rep with discovery, I'm only listening to the discovery portions of the call. I can get 10 of those in instead of one full call. All right. Take notes as you go. Read versus listen. So this is a little tip for you here. Okay. Do you have to listen to the call to know what happened? How long does it take to listen to a 60-minute call? Any guesses how long it takes to listen to a 60-minute call? Well, on 1X, it's 60 minutes. On 2X, it's 30 minutes. You know how long it takes to read a 60-minute call? You can read the entire call in under 10 minutes. So observing, you can just read and find things out. That's where the transcripts are so valuable on these calls, is you can read through it to see what you're trying to see. The observation is key. If you're not listening to a few calls per rep per week, you need to start. That is mandatory for my managers. Every single week, 2 to 3 calls per rep. Not full calls, just calls per rep, because they know what they're listening for, right? So search the transcriptions for what did or didn't happen. This is another great way to observe. Now we get into describe, and I think this is going to touch on David's question. What did they do versus what didn't they do? And this is very important. The way our brains work, you cannot picture not doing something, right? You didn't do this. So here's the example, right? You skipped versus you didn't say. You said this instead of that. You left out versus missed. You can't picture it. So in your brain, if I say you skipped this, can you picture skipping it? You can actually only picture doing it. So in your brain's like, okay, I did that thing. But the feedback was you skipped it, right? If I do this exercise with all of my reps and my managers, we can do a trust exercise. If I could see all your faces, I make you do it. But if I told you to close your eyes right now, just close your eyes. Don't think of a blue elephant. All you can think about is a blue elephant. You can't picture not. So this is what's important. So to David's question earlier, he asked, like, if you see them doing something, it's like, you said this, you twisted that, right? You need to tell them what they did do. This is good and bad. This is key. All my coaches, write this down right now. Write this down. 5-to-1 ratio. 5-to-1 ratio, good to bad / improvement feedback. This is so incredibly important, right? So this little thing here, right? The stuffed sandwich. I don't know who's watching this, and there's sometimes kids in the background, so I'm not going to cuss. I think I haven't cussed yet, which is probably a record at this point. Okay, right? The stuffed sandwich where they're like, you did this good, you did this bad, you did this good. When that's the ratio, people don't remember the good, and the negative is all they can think about. That 5-to-1 ratio, right? What this also does, by the way, is this is what forces you to prioritize. If I tell you you can give 2 pieces of negative feedback, but that means you got to give 10 good pieces of feedback, you're going to pick the 2 that actually matter, right? So you did this well, you did this well. And I want to come back to David's question here one more time to make sure I'm answering it. If they're doing the wrong things, how can you weave that? There we go, right? So you're saying, okay, you said this. You said, call you next week. You said, call you next week. Then we get into the impact. What's the impact of that? By saying, I'll call you next week, we miss the opportunity to schedule those next steps and make sure things are moving forward the way that we want them to, right? So you tie the description, describe what happened, to the impact. What's the impact of what they did? Even better is if you can get them to state the impact by asking them a question, right? So I say, David, we told them, hey, we just told them we'll call you next week without a scheduled time. What does that maybe leave us open to? Does that maybe leave us open to chasing? Could that make it harder to get us in touch, right? The impact, just like selling, by the way, if you can get the prospect to tell you the impact, it's more meaningful. Getting your rep to tell you the impact of what they did, both good and bad, makes it more meaningful, right? What can't we do later if we skip the pain question? Anish, what can't we do later if we skip the pain question? Oh, we can't actually confirm that they're sold because we don't know if they actually have the problem. Right. Now, what's that going to lead to? If you don't have the problem, what's going to happen to your close rate? Oh, my close rate's probably going to come down, right? But this is so important here, y'all. And as coaches, we tend to only focus on the negative. When you hear something good, same thing. Oh, man, your tone here, your tone here is perfect. What do you think that makes the prospect feel when you come with that energy and you can really tell you're enthusiastic? What do you think the prospect is feeling? And again, you get this is so important, y'all, is reinforcing the good. Because if all you do is talk about the bad, they stop paying attention to things they are doing well. What's the impact of what they're doing well, right? So, Paul, how often as a coach should we ask our rep how they felt a call went before giving feedback? So, Paul, I'm not a huge fan of the question of how they felt it went. I'm way more of a fan of what did you do well and where can you improve, right? Like, how they felt it went isn't nearly as important as them taking the next layer down. And by the way, this is why I love scorecards. The scorecards take the feeling out of it. The difference between feeling good and being good, right? Like, because you know this, a lot of reps feel great on a call. They're, oh man, that was the demo of my life. They didn't check any of the boxes, right? So that's how I like to approach it is what did you do well? Where could you improve? How you felt about it? This might sound callous. I guess I don't care that much how you felt. I want to know what you think you did well and what you think you could improve upon. But also, too, I do really try to enforce that they give me good. right? No, that call sucked. I did. Oh man, I missed this. I missed this. Okay, hold up. You're telling me nothing went good? Not a single thing. That is the worst call of your entire life. You intentionally did everything wrong. Give me something. Give me 1 to 2 things that you know you did well on. It's really, really important. Right. So, Steve, do you ask them for their feedback first, or do you lead with the 5 to 1? I think I go back and forth on that, Steve. Like, do want like the hey, how do you think you did is generally a good opener, but sometimes you're doing in the moment coaching, right? Which is like just in the moment, and it's not so much how did you feel. It's like, hey, Shruti, I loved that call. You hit this, you hit this, you hit this. Oh man, just you let them off without the scheduled date. How are you going to end your next call? How are you going to like that spot? Short mentioned it earlier. Fast chunks in the moment are so powerful. It doesn't always have to be an hour long coaching session, right? And if y'all think back to your best coaches, whether that was sports or music, they tend to give you very short, punchy, and tactical feedback. Hey, bring your elbow in, do it again. Hey, you need to reach your pinky over and then down. Reach it over and then down. Show me real quick, over and then down, right? They give very short, punchy feedback, not, well, Shruti, the way that you are approaching the classical scales on the guitar right now really don't model the setup that we are looking for. So at the current moment, you are putting your ring finger over where you need to be putting your pinky finger. And but no, they're like, hey, break the pinky, put it down. Short and punchy is how a lot of this feedback should be delivered, right? Okay. How much does personality types factor into the way that you coach? And does it? Okay, so it does and it doesn't, right? So knowing your reps is important. Are there some reps that take feedback better? Yes. Are there some reps that like to know the why and some reps that don't? Yes. Are there reps that take it personally and others that they crave that negative feedback? Yes. You do need to know your reps, but that 5 to 1 ratio, that's a human element, right? That's just as human beings, how we process and remember things. So I still try to cater to it, but knowing your reps is really, really important. Talent Code is a phenomenal read on this. Knowing your reps is important, but that's why, again, the framework. I'm giving you all the framework. This is your recipe. You're the ones that now that got to cook it. You can tweak it slightly for what you know about your team, your communication style, and things like that. But observation, description, impact, then we get to absorption. Make sure there's understanding. Ask buy-in questions. How do you know if someone has absorbed what you're teaching? How do you know they've absorbed it? This is important, coaches, because this is, again, the difference between training, teaching, and coaching. Training skips the absorption part. To this, by the way, is not coaching because I have no idea if y'all are absorbing this. I'm trying with some engagement, but I don't know for sure. Practice shows they absorbed it and they could teach it back. They need to explain it back to you, right? Okay, so again, why was this important? Why was this important? Why do we need to schedule those next steps on the call? And my leaders, double why. Why do we need to do it? Well, so then they're less likely to skip. And why don't we want that to happen? Well, because if they don't skip, I can close it sooner. Let's bring this home. What happens if you're closing deals faster? Well, I'm able to get to my quote. Like, you tie it back, but make them teach it back to you. But that's also where that practice. Do it right there with them. Do you see how? What would you do differently next time? How would you do this again? Make sure they are taking them note. They're taking notes. And this is key. Have them put the feedback on the call. This is something I've changed recently. I used to have my managers put the notes in the call. I want the reps entering the notes onto the call. Why? Think about that for 1 second. Psychologically, why do I want the reps typing in the good and the bad for the call from the manager? Think about the psychology behind that real quick. What will that potentially do? And I can wait, by the way. This isn't Dora the Explorer. I ask a question, blink 3 times, and answer my own question. This is for y'all. There we go. Muscle memory, reinforce. They own it. Objective, right? They type it, they believe it. But also, too, ooh, there we go. Candace nailed the memory. They're typing it out. Here's a big one, too. When taking feedback, especially if it's critical, you got to get it out. If you internalize it, it stings way more than just typing it out. So it comes in and then goes back out. So have them type up those notes. That's how you know it's being absorbed and retention improves. Okay. So now we get to apply. Now we get to apply. In the moment practice. Just make them say it back a few times, here or there. But that in the moment, right? Prompts and reminders. This is big. Okay. And this was a learning lesson for me as well, just as I've grown as a leader. Like the amount of stuff that we expect reps to remember is actually pretty ridiculous when you think about it. They have to remember all the product information. They have to remember all the competitor information. They have to remember all the objections. They have to remember the scripting, remember the pricing, remember who is involved, remember the impact of the problems. They need to remember the problems. They need to know all the personas that they are dealing with and the individual problems of their personas. They need to know social proof and testimonials, how to enter it into, like, there's nothing I described that a single sales rep on here deals with every single day. Prompts and reminders are huge. What's the sticky note? What's the reminder, right? How are they going to do it on every call, right? Shruti, I want you to say this on every single demo you have next week. And when I say every single one, I mean every single one. And I'm going to ping you 5 minutes before going, hey, what are we going to say? How are we going to ask for next steps? That's what I'm talking about right there, right? Those, by the way, over just hour-long role play sessions, if you can get a rep 10 minutes before a call burst or 10 minutes before a demo and do some real quick spotty, not spotty makes it sound not good, punchy feedback sessions, that's what preps them for what they're about to go do, right? Scheduled role plays. Work on the key points for 15 minutes. Done. You may not even have to cover it again. Right? Because if you're working on just a segment, say we're practicing discovery, I can do 6 to 7 discovery sessions with Shruti in those 15 minutes. Or I could do 1 hour-long role play and get one thing done. Short and punchy, high repetition. So Brian, do you have tips for tenured reps who are successful, score well? Where do you focus to keep their sessions valuable? Okay, so there's twofold here, Brian. It's a phenomenal question. One, if they are good and there is no room for improvement, what should you have them do? Become a coach. Have them teach it back because that reinforces it. But also, two, study the absolute crap out of them. What is it they do, right? But the last part is you just keep them going. You just keep them going with it and you encourage them. You keep giving them that positive feedback because it does get to a certain point. If there's not another level there, let them keep going, right? So it's really important to remember that if you got someone scoring high, have them coach back, continue to reinforce the good things that they are doing and study them so they can put those things into the scorecards, right? Chad Vanek. Oh my goodness gracious. What up, Chad? Man, see, now he's got Chad starting a tequila farm in California. Now he's got me thinking about tequila, right? I want to practice my sales coaching. Is there a database of open sourced real call recordings you know of that I can access to listen to and practice my sales coaching on? No, I don't know about something like that. And that's a really, really interesting idea to set up, to be able to give people feedback on how they coach. Because I do this with my managers from time to time. I'll listen to a call, they listen to a call, and we calibrate our coaching to see, are they catching the things that I'm looking for? That's a really good idea. We may have to talk about how to make that happen, Chad. That's some good stuff right there. I like it. Right? Yeah, like YouTube. Yeah, that might be a good spot. Scott threw that out there. Like YouTubing cold calls. There might be something out there. We'll see. Now I'm taking notes here. I want to talk about this. Okay, so call review, making sure they submit the calls where they're doing the thing that they're supposed to, right? Did you do the thing that you were supposed to? Yes, send all the calls that you did it, right? Send all the calls where you did it. Now you know they're applying it. Managers, don't have a, and I'm breaking my own rules. I'm telling you what not to do. If you do a one-on-one and give them call feedback and then wait another week to see if they did it, guess what's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen because there was no reinforcement in between, right? There should be check-ins, touch base, send me a call each day where you nailed this, right? That application needs to be ongoing. And by the way, you don't even have to listen to it because they send you the call, pull up the transcript. Oh, did she ask for next steps? She asked for next steps. Positive reinforcement. Shruti, you nailed it. That's exactly what we're looking for. How did you remember to do it? I put a sticky note. I love it. Keep it up. Go do it on the next one. Send me another one. 30 seconds. Application every day, every single week. Setting up triggers can be big too. If you have a tool like a wingman, set up triggers to let you know whether things are or aren't happening on the calls that are going on with your team. The application is everything. If they're not applying it, you're not coaching. Really is that simple. Right? And then reward the behavior. Notice what I just, like as the example of Shruti, she did the right thing. I didn't ask if she closed the deal. I didn't ask if she booked the meeting. I said, you did the thing that we're trying to do. Great job. You did it. Oh, but they didn't close. That's not what I'm talking about right now. You did what we're working on that's going to lead to a higher close rate. That application, reward that. Recognize that one of our virtues for the patient pop sales team is celebrate the process. Celebrate the process. That's what you're trying to do to make coaching stick. You got to be able to measure this, okay? Can't manage results. You can only manage behaviors and skills. Is it working? How will you know if it's working, right? Coaching needs to be measured. Pick a metric, any metric, any metric. Someone throw a metric into the chat here real quick. Any metric, just throw one. See the first one that pops up here.
Katie, a lot of what you spoke about, actually the KPIC framework in itself applies so well into the coaching scenario as well, right? You have, the know, which is the first part of listening, right, that you described in coaching. And then you have the pain points, which is, again, where you kind of do the fact finding. And then what is really important, actually, more than anything else, I believe, in coaching is getting the sales rep themselves to actually identify what is going to be the impact if they made that change, because that is what really gets them to commit to that change. And so, yeah, it's quite interesting how many parallels there are between sales itself and sales coaching. So I think if you do both of it, and also to the question on what do you do if you have a really good sales rep, getting them to coach actually probably helps them with their own craft of sales.
Oh, for sure. David mentioned talent code. That was one of the big things, that tribal teaching, right? One, it reinforces as a teacher. What we do, here's what's so hard with sales is we tend to learn better from our peers, but our peers are horrible teachers. Like, it's haphazard. It's all over the place. There's no framework. There's no science to it. It's all random insights. You can get great tribal trainers teaching. It sticks better too, right? This is what I mean. Define any metric, define the behaviors and skills associated with that metric. Now, if you're coaching a rep on those things, it should improve. My managers are responsible for sending me the number one metric they are working on per rep and what the coaching plan is. If a rep has a low close rate, they look at the issue diagnosis. Like, here's why they have a low close rate. They're missing the problem portion of the discovery. They're not confirming they're sold before next steps, and they're presenting pricing without a recommendation. Then that's what they're working on. Now, here's what's really, really important. And coaches, is what's important to remember. How long does it take to know if it's working? This is something I do want to call out. If you're only paying attention to the results, that could take 4 months. It could take 6 months. If you have a 6-month sales cycle, it takes 6 months to see that close rate go up. But if you're managing to the behavior and skill, you can tell that rep they're getting better tomorrow. Tomorrow, you can say, hey, you're getting better, right? And that's what you're trying to measure, is the how and the behaviors. Identify what's missing in low, create a game plan, and go after it. But you should see the metrics improve. When my reps are improving in a metric, we almost always know why. What are they getting better at through call coaching to get them there, right? So the coaching plans need to be specific, high volume in terms of frequency, chunked, starting point and end point, and agreed upon by both sides. All right, Chad, this is what we're working on, right? And we know why we're working on this. Why are we working on you're, asking for next steps. Okay, cool. This is what we're going to do every day, 5 to 10 minutes. You and we're going to do this high repetition till we feel we got it. End point. Once I've heard this on 5 straight demos, we can move on to the next thing. This is important that there's an end point to it as well. So they see like, okay, we move on to the next thing, right? So the coaching plans, where are we starting? Where are we ending? What's the participation, right? How do we know it's working, right? Is that measurement? How do we know it's working? You track the results. Are they getting better? Because what happens if you're not? What if we're going and Shruti's sales cycle isn't improving and she is doing the thing I'm asking her for? You move on to the next thing. You go, okay, here's another thing that could be impacting this. Maybe it's the size of the deal. Maybe it's because she's not getting the problems. Maybe she's not creating urgency, whatever it is, right? Right? Because this is the thing. You don't have to sell people on coaching if it actually works. If someone's actually getting better, you don't have to sell them on it. You don't have to sell them on it because they feel like they're getting better. It's when coaches are giving feedback that doesn't matter. That's when the reps are like, well, I don't want this feedback. I don't want to be coached. If it's working, if people feel themselves getting better. I love when our Slack like fires off like, oh, I used like what we worked on last week, or oh, I took that training and it worked, and oh, I did this and I did that. When it's working, that's how you create a culture around selling. A culture around coaching, because you see it working, right? So we touched on this a little bit. Practice making it stick, right? You got to practice it hundreds and hundreds of times. 1 role play per week per rep, right? Doesn't have to be 30 minutes, but you got to do it. Spot practice sessions are my favorite. Those are my favorite, 10 to 15 minutes, right? Spotty, quick, and do it. And that's how you get it done. I've said this for a few years now. Everybody practices. The best do it on purpose. The rest do it on prospects. Because if you're not practicing with a manager, you're practicing with the prospect. And that is not coaching. If you just did a one-on-one with your rep and you said, okay, when you're talking to a VP, you got to say X, and they go, yeah. And then they get me on the phone, guess who they're practicing with? They're practicing with me because you haven't done it with them yet. That's what's so important here, is the practice is what makes the coaching stick. So we'll cruise through this unless we got more questions, but defining good, you got to have a scorecard for your coaching. This is what keeps your managers focused on the right things and everyone is aligned, right? We've still got, a bunch of people on this call. Y'all could come onto my floor, listen to a call, and score it probably just as well as I can. Talk about a tool, right? Because we've defined what good is. Now, what feels good? I can't remember who mentioned it, right? But like, oh, that felt good. Was it good? Did you achieve the things that we know have the biggest impact on how a call should go, right? What are the 10 biggest things that impact either your prospecting calls or your closing calls? Write them down because you know what you look for. You know what you look for in every single call. Write it down. There's your scorecard. Or better yet, go listen to your best reps. What is it they do? Write it down. There becomes the baseline of your scorecard, right? And involving your team in building this is huge. I have a full other session on how to build a call scorecard. If you're interested in that, hit me up. It's in the Patreon group. Like, I'll break it down fully, but defining good is so important for your coaching, right? Because that way it's not ambiguous. I think that's the right word. Or it's just random, right? And then you have one coach giving some sort of feedback, another coach giving other types of feedback. Define what good is. And this also forces prioritization. So I'm going to give you a few things here as baselines. If you're building a prospecting scorecard, something about tone, K-pick, gap questions that might make sense, asking for the meeting and confirmation should be there. I don't care what it is you're selling. I don't care what industry you're selling into, how they sound, K-pick, are they asking gap questions? Do they piece it together? That might make sense how they piece it together. I think this might make sense based on the problems that you're having and our ability to solve them. I think we could show you how it might be worth looking into. Did they ask for the meeting? Did they confirm that they're going to show up in the demo? Are they getting problem agreement in the discovery? Are they educating, demonstrating, and getting buy-in on each key feature set? BLC stands for benefit laden check-ins, not does that make sense? Does that make sense? It's not a benefit laden check-in, right? That's a waste of a check-in. Pre-pricing buy-in, agreement to next steps and why, scheduled next steps. I don't know where y'all work. I don't know what you sell. I promise you, these things in here, if they're doing consistently, will have a higher close rate than people that don't, right? So here's your baseline for a scorecard. And lastly, leverage technology. So this is hilarious, by the way. So Chad Vannigs, if he's still on here, Chad and I worked together 8 years ago, Jesus, 8, 9 years ago, right? I don't know if he's still on it. We had these like analog call recorders that you had to plug into your phone to listen to the calls and record it on a separate device to go listen to. You had to write out or put the scorecard in Excel to fill it out. There was no transcripts. There was no wingman. There was nothing. There were no notifications. It took forever. We've got 2012, so we're at 9 years now, right? Chad and I were like call coaching brethren. Like this is what we did. This is what we spent our time on, was listening to calls and breaking them down without cool tools like we have now. So you can leverage technology to set up alerts. You can leverage technology to get the transcripts and read them. You can search them, right? So I just did this with my own team, right? I'll give you, like, I'm real about all this, okay? My team loves to ask, are you accepting new patients, instead of, are you struggling to see the amount of patients you want? One's an easy cop-out answer. The other one is a probing, problem-based question. So I did this in front of them in a coaching session, or this is a training session, not a coaching session. I typed in accepting new patients, 4,000 calls. I typed in not enough patients, 800 calls. Do I need to say anything else, right? Like you can search to see what's happening. Bonus tip, I love to search for the words wow, cool, I didn't know that, on the prospect side. I want to know where the prospect is saying wow, cool, I didn't know that, because that lets me know what they care about. Listening on 2x speed. Listen on 2x speed, right? Once you know the tone, listen on 2x speed and study greatness. Listen to your best. Find their commonalities and add it to the scorecard. And in time teaching, these are those prompts, right? Like, okay, instead of a sticky note, it'd be really cool if something just popped up on the screen when they were supposed to do that. I wish someone would make something like that, Shruti.
Yeah, that is so true. Like, you've said it over and over again that it's so important to practice and it's so important to repeat stuff. And I think that's really where coaching often goes wrong and people don't see the impact, because you coach your reps once a month and they've forgotten what you told them a month back. So yeah, today, with Wingman, we make that possible. You can do all of these things that Katie mentioned. And yeah, definitely being able to have those battle cards show up when you need them. We even have a battle card that shows up when you say, does that make sense? And reminds them to, ask better probing DLC type questions.
Yeah. So you like, what they say, like a fool with a tool is still a fool. If you leverage what we've talked about today and then use a tool like Wingman, that's where you get the biggest lift, because you can 3 to 5x the amount of calls you can coach on, which then will make your reps 3 to 5x better. And when I say 3x better, I'm not joking. Taking a rep from 10% close rate to 30% close rate is a 3x increase. Or if you're thinking truly exponential, if I can get your close rate from 20 to 30, your ACV up 15%, and your sales cycle down by 15%, I'm still almost tripling your results over a quarter from each one of those things. And that's all done through call coaching. All right. So with this, we are at 4 minutes. Any questions? Actually, real quick, I haven't asked this question yet. So we have this call. Do we have full permission from this person and their company to use this call before I get into trouble?
We do have permission from the person. I don't know if
Okay.
they specifically took permission yet. You should be able to go.
All right. Well, then we'll do it. We'll do it here. All right. Like, it's kind of YOLO, whatever. They can come after me. I don't think there's anything. I just haven't listened yet. So if credit card numbers start getting read on this and y'all set me up, that's a problem. Okay. So we've got a call here we're going to listen to break this down. And this will be really fun because y'all are going to do this with me, right? We're going to listen to this call. We're going to put feedback in the chat. I'm going to give some feedback and we will wrap on this. So here we go. I want to make sure y'all can hear this.
Yeah.
You hear?
This is where we broadcasted. Did I catch it at okay time?
Shruti, can you hear it? Yep. Okay. Here we go. Bring it back. Let's go.
Hello? Hi, is this me? Yeah. This is where we broadcasted. Did I catch it at okay time? I've got 30 seconds. Tell me what it's concerning. Okay. I'm calling because I did an analysis on the IM website and saw some opportunities which you could be leveraging interactive content for the user knowledge portal, for example, or just in part of the website, quizzes, assessments. Does any of that resonate with your priorities for the moment? Yeah, I'm aware of all the opportunities and many different ways that we're going to go about it. So we're not looking for a partner. They hired me to overhaul to a new website and implement a lot of different strategies. So that's I guess the short answer is saying yes. I'm aware of the opportunity that's on the table and what to do about it. Okay, that's great. Just so I can confirm, if you're responsible for the website design, because we're not an agency, like we're a platform that allows you to do that. So I don't know if this could be maybe more interesting to you, like a code-free tool. So, I mean, you can send me an email of exactly what you're pitching. I've spent the last 2 months doing research and setting up a strategy, and none of that is going to be implemented until later on this year. So, again, what you're seeing live is not relative to what the new website strategy will be. Okay, I understand. Nice, Pete. So maybe it would make more sense for me to reach out by the end of the year when you have more of those things ongoing, or you just prefer the short email and then you can handle it? Yeah, just send me an email at whatever time. That's the best way to engage, because I can review something with without any distractions on my own time frame, and consider if I could utilize that resource, whatever it might be. Okay, that's perfect, Steve. Thank you. I'll send you the email. All right, thank you. Bye. Bye.
Okay. So thank you to that brave soul for sending us a call to break down live, right? So let's see. Like I'm seeing some things in here, right? But I see y'all too, right? Y'all are just straight up just savages, though. It's like, oh, didn't do this, this or that. Like, remember the framework. Remember the framework, okay? So here I'm gonna go through this, right? I liked her tone at the beginning, sound very casual and calm, a laugh in the beginning. I am a big fan of permission-based selling on prospecting calls. So like, do you have 30 seconds? Do you got a sec? I'm not a big fan of like, did I catch you at an okay time? I think that can be flipped, but I like the concept of permission-based selling. So my biggest piece of feedback for her, honestly, would be there was no problem-based language, right? So she talked about opportunities without impact. So did she follow KPIC? Here's what I know: problem, impact, call to action. She did a little bit of the no. Here's what I know about you. She said she'd analyzed the website, right, and saw some opportunities. So the no was there. Good job. Problem. Did she talk about the problems or the impact? No. And so that would be the biggest place that I would give her feedback, is like, okay, what's the impact of what you found, right? So what? Because this call, by the way, he was on the phone with her. Like, I think she probably could have asked a few more gap questions. Like, I'm in charge of this. I'm in charge of this. Oh, so you're already going to overhaul it. What don't you like about the website as it stands right now? Right. So I think she could have pulled a little bit. And then also at the end, I'm a big, big believer in correct and confirm. He says, send me an email. She didn't confirm the email. She just said, I'll send it to you versus cool. Is it bob@superbiz.com? Yes. Great. I'll shoot that over to you. And then someone else, oh, by the way, like, what would you like to see in there? So that was some feedback I would give there. So K-Pick, here's what I know. The problem, impact, call to action. So here's what I know about you, your company, or your persona. Here are the problems I know either you, your company, or your persona have. Is the impact of those problems. And then what's the call to action? What do you want me to do about it? And that could be answer some questions. That could be chat a little bit. That could be setting up the demo. That's the breakdown. So anything else? Anything else anyone want to call out on that call before we wrap this up? So with that, y'all, thank you very much for joining. Thank you for your time on this Monday. Shruti, thank you for having me. Thank you for the Wingman team for putting this together. I hope this was valuable. If this was valuable, be sure to tell people about us and go through it. There's a recording of this, right? I hope so. Hope we recorded this bad boy. I
Yes,
think this
we
will be
do.
recording so that we can
We will
do
be
some
sending
call
that
coaching
over.
on myself. So with that, Shruti, if you want to wrap us up here, we can send people on their way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Katie. That was absolutely wonderful. And thanks everyone who asked questions, and thanks for making this so interactive. We will be sending a recording. You should expect that in your inbox in the next 24 hours. We are also, extending a 30-day free trial for Wingman to anybody who's interested. So, do keep a lookout in your mailbox, and you will get that right there. And for the brave soul who shared that call for coaching, she has something special that she'll be getting from the Patreon community. Is that right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So I didn't get a chance to follow up. I wanted no context coming in because otherwise I'm already thinking about it. So no, we'll definitely reward her for that. So thank you, everybody. My biggest ask here, y'all, go apply something. Go apply something, right? Don't just listen to this, feel good about it, and then go on your way. Apply it with your reps, apply it with your team. Let's make our reps better. Live better, sell better, y'all. Later.